Hey everybody, welcome back. Hello Raventail, welcome everyone. Welcome back, guys. This is Pete Jeremy's Dean. Wait, this is Fantasy Labs. Pete, what are we doing now? We're on to our most important segment of the show.
Well, actually, I would say that equivalently important to Lich's Lair.
You know, actually, that's actually
Lich's Lair is the other most important segment of the show.
Yeah.
Shit. Oh, this is the thing I forgot to do at the end of Lich's Lair. If you made something that you would like me and Jeremy to fine-tooth the way that we just did with
terrible.
then let me know. Let me, Pete, know. Just message me on Discord. My name on Discord is Pete, if you're not familiar with it. Hit me up, and I will get you on. I believe we have one for next week, and we might have one for the week after, but...
we'll get you in the rotation.
Yes. V-Bunny says, D&D time, I'm here. We know, and we got you first on the roster, V-Bunny. If anyone is not here...
if you're not here, let us know.
If anyone is here, I meant to say if there's anyone is here, I know Blood Deuce is here, I know V-Bunny's here. Sword's here, excellent. Shout out if you have something in the workshop that you want us to talk about. We have a list of them here, but we might, since we went really long on that, skip over a couple. If the person is not here to discuss it with us.
Yeah, let's start diving through, because I know there's a couple here that like both the folks in chat are really excited about, but I'm also really excited about too. I want to start with, can we start Spiritual Garden, Pete? I love the name Spiritual Garden, because this just feels like, is this a druid spell?
This is
okay.
A druid spell, yes.
10-minute casting time, interesting, and it's a ritual. 20-foot cylinder? I don't understand. Okay. Rubble-somatic material. It's got a material component, which is a small flower.
Yeah, it's a cool little spell.
A 20-foot radius, 10-foot tall, and it lasts for 8 hours. A 20-foot radius, 10-foot tall cylinder of flowers and plants, and springs into existence and creates a floor around you and below you that remains stationary for the duration. The spell ends if you leave its area. 9 creatures of medium size or smaller can fit inside the circle with you. The spell fails if its area includes a larger creature, or more than 9 creatures. Okay, creatures and objects within the circle, when you cast a spell, can move through it freely. All other creatures are barred from passing through it, but they can pass above or below it. The atmosphere outside the space is comfortable and dry, regardless of the weather outside. Until the spell ends, you can command the interior to become dimly lit or dark. While within the circle, I think you mean cylinder. You and your allies get a +5 bonus.
I get the idea.
The dexterity, stealth, and wisdom perception checks. Any lights and flames inside the sphere, a campfire, torches, and the like isn't visible outside it. The circle and the plants within it provide enough food to feed the party for up to a day. All food created by the spell disappear after the party leaves the spell in effect. The spell is dismissed or the duration of the spell ends.
So this is Spiritual Guardian, or Spiritual Garden. V-Bunny had an extra note on it, which was meant to be combined with Leomund's Tiny Hut and stuff. This is turning your Leomund's Tiny Hut camp into glamping, is what I feel like this spell is.
I looked at it at first, right? A 20-foot radius, 10-foot tall cylinder.
It's designed, I believe it's specifically designed to interact with Leomund's Tiny Hut.
Well, it is Leomund's Tiny Hut. It seems like this just is Leomund's Tiny Hut. But it's flowers and fruiting plants.
Well, Leomund's Tiny Hut is also a 3rd level spell ritual, same casting time and stuff, or actually it's a longer casting time, but it's a 10-foot radius hemisphere, so you could put your Leomund's Tiny Hut inside of your Spiritual Garden.
I'm very confused, but it is very different. It seems like it affects the same thing, right? You create an area that creatures can't pass through, except for ones that you choose. Right?
Yeah, I think it just extends the area of Leomund's Tiny Hut, but...
Yeah, this just seems like better Leomund's Tiny... Way bigger and better Leomund's Tiny Hut.
Worse Leomund's Tiny Hut, though, because you don't have a physical barrier. So I feel like you could, like...
can things not shoot into Leomund's Tiny Hut?
I don't think so. Because it's a dome. Are barred from all other creatures and objects. This doesn't bar objects from passing through. This only bars creatures. So you can shoot arrows into people in their Spiritual Garden, which is a mean thing to do, but enemies could do this.
But creatures can't.
but creatures can't.
I'm not sure how I feel about this. It's very interesting. I see this part about the perception stealth checks. I'm wondering, is that from the Circle of Dreams Druid? What's the Circle Druid that has the thing? Anyway, I love the idea of this. Bunny, I think my personal feel would be like, I'd almost make this just like a different Leomund's Tiny Hut, but for druids. Like,
Leomund's Tiny Garden.
Like instead of intending it to be with Leomund's Tiny Hut, dude, just make it your own Leomund's Tiny Hut. Make it, keep it the 10-foot radius instead of a 20-foot radius, so it's not like we don't have a potential, okay, that's a huge area that can't be passed, But
Leomund's Chill Grove.
Yeah, make this Sunny's Happy Garden. Like, go for it. Or Sunny's Spiritual Garden. It even has the alliteration.
Honestly, without the name though, Sunny's Spiritual Garden, just Spiritual Garden is a really good name for this thing. I like that name a lot. The casting time.
Sorry, I really liked, by the way, the thing that really struck me immediately about this was the cylinder. And it's like, oh, right, so it can fit a tree. Of course, that's why it's not a dome.
Made sense to me on that. I just thought, like, the spiritual... Okay, Jeremy's right. From a design standpoint, I think you could go in just a direction of making this a more druidic tiny hut. I think...
But I love it. It's very fun. It's very cute.
I do think it's kind of cute being like, oh, you got your Leomund's Tiny Hut? Well, why don't we make camp in my spiritual garden, which is kind of cool.
I guess what's third level spell, it feeds you. I guess how different is this from like what's create food? Is that also third level?
Create food and water is...
It's also third level. So you know what? Screw it. I think it's fine the way it is. It might be too strong, but
it's also like too strong in an area that it doesn't really matter if it's too strong. It's the stealth and the perception checks that are a little bit...
Yeah, maybe we nix that part, but I don't know. I think it's pretty cool. I like the idea that light from open flames isn't visible outside. It's very cool. That's some text that I think is very, very neat.
Yeah, I'm really into that vibe of like your buddy walks into your little camp zone and then it's really nice. And then the light also anyway, there's cool things to describe there. I like it. Spiritual Garden is a cool idea. And I think it could lose... I think it could use maybe a touch of work, but I really like the direction Spiritual Garden's.
And I think what would be cool is instead of plants provide enough food to feed the party, I think it just like, you could say, right, the Spiritual Garden provides enough food and water to sustain any creatures which are within the circle when the spell is cast, right? Might be a cool way of handling that.
Yeah, that might be a good way to do it. I think that would work.
But
Goodberry is a place to look to.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot.
Maybe this is Goodberry text as it stands. I'm not sure.
I would not go with the create food and water, like pounds of food and gallons of water, blah 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 blah. But Bloodjuice name Twig people don't go on Spiritual Guardian.
I disagree.
I think it's fine. I like Spiritual Garden a lot. I think it's a fine name.
It'll definitely cause confusion at a table otherwise. I think that's confusion that's fun. Because that's not like a problem. That's your druid going, I cast Spiritual Garden. And they're going, why are you casting Spirit Guardians? And they're going, no, it's my Spiritual Garden. And then they create, like, I don't know. I don't see it as a problem. I just feel it's like a goof.
I like it. Thank you for sharing, everybody. This is actually a very fun spell. I think this has a lot of room to exist in 5e. Especially any spell that's for a druid, a warlock, or a ranger, but especially a druid or a ranger specifically, probably should exist.
I didn't include it in the listing here, but there was a lot of discussion of a spell. Jeremy, I know you had a lot of thoughts on it too, of a spell that was being used to make new spell slots. And I was just really excited to see everyone, I feel like everyone took their own stab at the create spell slot spell. And it was an interesting thing. I recommend checking out that thread if you're interested in that.
Yeah, also, and it's one saying, it could cause confusion. It's a 10 minutes out of combat ability versus Spirit Guardians. which is an action very much in I'm just not going to get confused. I don't think so. Especially because like the druid doesn't have spirit guardians. You know?
Yeah, it's just the use case is so different. Like,
Yeah,
there's no situation where someone would, once they understand the two spells, would be like, if you're in the middle of a battle, think that you're doing Spirit Guard. If there were similar spells, I would agree.
Well, let's move on to our next one. Thank you, V-Bunny. I love that.
Razia, if you're hanging out, we'll go over the Gremlin Revised. Otherwise, I know Blood Deuce is here, so let's start off with Howling Arrows next.
Yeah, and we'll come back if you're
circle back around, Razia, if you're hanging.
Howling Arrows.
Yep.
I think this is a. Okay, no, this is a. Yeah, you took what you had, Howling Shot, and okay, no, Howling Shot was revised later on to something else. This is just a whole new spell.
So this is a new spell, and it's taken the flavor of the Howling Shot from before. This is a 4th level transmutation spell. As a casting time of 1 action, a range of touch, verbal and somatic components, and it has concentration up to an hour. You touch a quiver containing arrows or bolts. When a target is hit by a ranged weapon attack using a piece of ammunition drawn from the quiver, the target takes an extra 1d6 thunder damage. The spell's magic ends on a piece of ammunition when it hits or misses, and the spell ends when 12 pieces of ammunition have been drawn from the quiver. Once during each of your turns until the spell ends, you may further empower 1 piece of ammunition drawn from the quiver. When the target is hit by a ranged weapon attack using a piece of ammunition empowered this way, the target must make a strength saving throw instead of the spell's normal effects. They take 2d6 thunder damage and are pushed 15 feet away from you on a failed save, taking half damage and not being moved on a successful save. At higher levels, when you cast the spell using a spell slot of 5th level or higher, the number of pieces of ammunition that you can affect with the spell increases by 2 for each slot level above the 4th. All right. So these are Howling Arrows, and this is kind of similar to the cantrip that we were looking at last time, but it's more of a direct buff on your attack, because last time it was like part of the attack, but it's also a 4th level spell, so that makes sense. So I like this. I think this is really cool. I haven't wrapped my head fully around how I feel about the balance, because it's a pretty complicated thing in terms of it.
I'm looking at Flame Arrows, which is I think the direct comparison here. At least that's what Blood was saying in the chat. I think an adaptation of Flame Arrows with a push effect. It's interesting because Flame Arrows is a 3rd level transmutation, which basically just has this first part. It just does fire damage instead of thunder.
The issue that I'm having with this is I'm not crazy about the extra complication of the second half of this feature. Do you know what I mean? Like they all deal a flat 1d6, and then it confuses me a little bit in terms of how it interacts with that first 1d6 thunder damage, and then it tacks the extra 2, which it would work, but like
Here's a question, right? Who is this for? Did you plan? Is this a wizard spell? Like, I know Flame Arrows is Artificer, Druid, Ranger, Sorcerer, or Wizard. And so as a result, Flame Arrows is pretty weak. It just has a d6 of fire damage. Because it's the idea that a Wizard or Sorcerer could cast this on an Archer, a Ranger or a Fighter. It's available to the same classes. Okay. In that case, I think the 1d6 thunder damage, we have to keep it. If this were a Ranger-only spell, I think that could even be higher. That could even be, a 2 or 3d6 extra damage deal. Because you'd be comparing it directly to Hunter's Mark, which does the same thing just as generic damage at 1st level. It has some more effects than just that, but I don't know. You're saying you don't like the complication of the extra saving throw, Pete?
It's not the extra saving throw that I have issue with. It's the extra once during each of your turns, and the combination of like each turn, one of the things that you do can have this extra effect, but not all of the times that you fire your bow. It just seems like it just feels a little bit of an awkward thing to track to me. It's not like I couldn't, and I understand completely how it works. It's just I'm just not 100% sold on the design there. But I do I like the concept. I mean, I love the baseline of it's a d6 thunder damage, and also I love the idea of hitting with the arrows and knocking back with it. That's
Yeah.
The instead of the spell's normal effect is meant to provide distinction, but unclear how to write it better.
It kind of reminds me of almost Lightning Arrow in that regard.
Oh, so it actually negates the 1d6 thunder damage from the start. I actually didn't get that. I thought it was...
Yeah, the intent would be instead of doing any other regular damage, it would deal 2d6 thunder damage and push 15 feet.
So it doesn't even deal the weapon damage.
Yeah.
I think it's intended to do the weapon damage.
Maybe. It might do the
If
weapon
you hit with a ranged weapon attack, they then make a strength saving throw. Yeah.
My personal feel about this, I think the higher level cast is great. I think this extra first part is fine. I don't know about you, Pete, but I think there'd be no issue with this if it just did an extra d6 thunder damage and pushed. I mean, that would be the simplest form of this. If there was just no save, it just pushed 5 feet on a hit, and it was a 4th level transmutation, right? Like if this said takes an extra 1d6 thunder damage and just pushed 5 feet, and then we could get that whole middle part out. Yeah, you're losing a d6 of damage, but you're also losing the saving throw. I don't think there's any balance issue there for a 4th level transmutation.
Yeah, I have no issue with that. I actually even think that's still kind of a weak spell at that point.
And again, if this were a ranger only spell, that could maybe be 2d6 thunder.
Yeah,
damage.
I think it could go up to 2d6.
It's
and even as but a wizard, the idea is like a wizard might cast this as a high level spell on someone else. Is the idea, right?
Yeah,
is what
and
concerns you?
It's interesting because Blood. This is a very funny thing you're bringing up here. I recall Pete wanting a saving throw on the force movement for the cantrip version. Exactly right. There's so much different of context between the cantrip and the 4th level spell. It's kind of like on the pixie we just looked at for Frog. There's such a big difference in the context of how the column of mist worked in the original versus what it was on this new iteration. As a 4th level spell, a 5-foot push, that's not
relatively insignificant in comparison to.
Like, even if you're a wizard and you cast this on a fighter, what's the fighter going to do it best, right? 4 attacks at that level.
Yeah, and a push on a cantrip is a much bigger deal because you're comparing it to something like Infestation, which is a pretty weak cantrip and doesn't give you control over the forced movement, as opposed to that, which is more reliable.
Yeah,
this,
I think
I like kind of the direction that Jeremy was going here with it. For me, it's the one stirring, just due to trolls. I'm not sure what you mean by that, Switch. If you could elaborate more.
I was gonna say another direction you could go with this, right, is rather than once on each turn, you could make this troll, whatever, dude. I guess you're saying flame arrows is better because it blocks troll regeneration. You're right.
Oh, well.
Switch. Excellent troll comment there. But I don't know. Another direction you could take is have this big one, right? You can make this like a 6d6 thunder damage and push 15 feet and have that end the spell, right? As like once while you concentrate on the spell and you hit a creature with an attack, you can expend the spell to do that, right? To do this extra damage and push it.
That's an interesting idea as well.
That would be another direction.
It changes like the flavor of it a bit, but I like that mechanic.
I think Pete is probably right though about like the original kind of point, which is all right. Oh goodness, I broke everything, folks. That's a little more complicated. I'm not sure it's even that much more complicated though, honestly. Like I think it's
not
fine.
like, yeah, it's not like a complete deal breaker for me. I'm just not 100% in on the once during each of your turns option. I almost would rather it like.
I don't know. I mean,
I'd rather just be on it. Like, I'd rather just that almost be on it,
Yeah, you can't put a 15-foot push on a no save though.
Yeah, I would have to.
You can because of the Artificer's repelling shield, but you shouldn't.
Yeah, I don't mean on a no save. I just mean like instead of once during each of your turns, just making it that's just what it does 2d6 damage, and pushes back 15 feet. half as much on a successful save, which is a lot of saves, which is also an issue to run into. But like, I don't think that's imbalanced perfect personally, but I also haven't thought about it a lot. Anyway, these are some of our thoughts. Like the fact that we're going back and forth and waffling around this much is an indication that this is in a pretty good spot.
Yeah, a very well thought out, well designed, well executed feature. It's just
I didn't comment on this.
What you want it to be.
I don't know if this is just the standard thing for fire arrows. I don't really know the spell fire arrows that well. Is that how they do the higher level thing for fire arrows?
Flame
okay,
arrows.
I like that design a lot.
Yeah, it's actually not bad.
Preventing it from scaling out of control, but giving it something.
Yeah, well, I think Vibon's making a great point in chat, right? With Repelling Blast on Eldritch Blast, it already has an on-hit knockback, and that's like, so that's why I'm saying at 4th level, having a no-save small knockback is fine, right? Because we're comparing, like, I think that makes sense at that level of a spell. The reason, obviously, Warlocks can do it all the time is they're
broken.
I mean, they're broken. That's their core class feature is Eldritch Blast.
Yeah,
with some minor exception.
But let's look at the revised cantrips here.
Yeah, thank you, Blood, for sharing that. This is also from Blood. Arcing Shot. Nobody take this one, Peter. You want to run it?
Take it, Jeremy.
All right. One action, touch, verbal material, piece of ammunition which the spell consumes. It's instantaneous. As part of the action used to cast the spell, you must make a ranged attack using a piece of ammunition which you must view. Otherwise, the spell fails. On a hit, the target suffers the attack's normal effects, with the exception that all damage dealt by the attack becomes lightning damage. And the piece of ammunition transforms into a bolt of electricity, which jolts from the target to a different creature of your choice within 5 feet of it. The second creature takes lightning damage equal to their spellcasting ability modifier. The spell's damage increases when you reach higher levels. The ranged attack does an extra 1d6 lightning damage, and the lightning damage second creature increases to 1d6 plus your spellcasting ability modifier. Both damage rolls increase by 1d6 11th level and 17th level. This is actually probably like Lightning Arrow, isn't it? I'm not sure. There's a little bit of language here that kind of befuddled me, and that's the target suffers the attack's normal effects with the exception that all damage dealt by the attack becomes lightning. That's a little confusing to me. Does that mean like if a rogue with, I guess, sneak attack already would be lightning? I'm not sure. There might be language in the Lightning Arrow spell that could be helpful there. Yeah, I think it's just which transforms into a bolt of lightning.
I mean, that was clear to me how that worked. Because I maybe
last time.
instead of with the exception that all damage dealt by the attack becomes lightning damage, maybe would you prefer it if it said instead of becomes, it is treated as?
Oh, it's the phrase "with the exception" is the phrase that
doesn't
flow to me.
Yeah, I mean, maybe there's a better way to phrase it, but I think it's clear.
Oh yeah, no, it's clear. It's clear. It doesn't have a problem. It's just
okay. I thought you were saying that there was a problem with the.
No. Sorry, no problem. Let's see.
I don't know. This, I think, can be a cantrip. Like
yeah. Oh, absolutely. I think this is a really cool cantrip.
Yeah, I think that this is pretty ready to go. Actually.
And sorry, Blood, I didn't mean it to sound confusing for you. And this was the main change, I think, right? Was that this now the base thing does lightning damage to the first target. Yeah, I would recommend looking at the Lightning Arrow spell for that phrasing, which might. Yeah, it's got some language that might help with that tiny little part, but otherwise, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, regardless of cleaning up language, I think Arcing Shot is done. I think you can put a stamp on this.
Absolutely. I see Adrian saying it's a weaker green flame blade. Yeah, absolutely it is. It's definitely weaker. It's a ranged attack.
Point is exactly correct. Just a great one to
Yeah, I mean, I see this as a spell that, like, let's say I was playing an elf wizard, right? I would want this just as a fallback. Like, I can do ranged attacks as a wizard without having to rely on my cantrips that don't have reliable base damage. You know what I mean?
I get to feel cool about using a weapon.
I feel like this is a thing that would really appeal to a lot of people.
Yeah, I was saying this last week, I think, but this is something that I'm surprised doesn't already exist, is equivalent of green blade for like, because that's a sign that you get that 2 points on space when you capitalize on something like that. Was when I can't believe that no one's done this yet.
But yeah, with some tiny phrasing, and that's my personal quibbles. This is perfect.
Yeah, and the D8 to D6, that's actually pretty standard. I think a great comparison point for that is Shillelagh to Magic Stone, which is also the D8. Well, that's just the same damage. You're moving from melee to range, and it goes from a D8 to D6.
Chromatic Orb to inflict wounds would also, D10 to D8.
Yeah, it's a good one too.
Magic Stone's just a funky fucking spell.
Well, Magic Stone has other issues beyond that, but that was the idea, is that they're moving. The fact that you only get 3 Magic Stones is the...
Well, anyway, let's keep on moving. Fuming Shot.
Yes.
Was Howling Shot. So I'm interested to see, this must be fire now.
It's acid, actually.
Oh, okay, that works.
I like as well. Let me take this one. You get a transmutation cantrip here, casting time of 1 action, a range of touch, and components, ammunition, which spell consumes, duration 1 round, standard, for a thing of this nature. As a part of the action used to cast this spell, you must make a ranged attack using a piece of ammunition, which you magically imbue. Otherwise, the spell fails, standard there. On a hit, the target suffers the attack's normal effects, with the exception that all damage by the attack becomes acid damage, as stated. And the piece of ammunition transforms into a cloud of acidic gas around the target's location, which lasts until your next turn. If the target does not move before then, it takes 1d6 acid damage and the spell ends. I actually really like that.
I do as well, quite a bit.
I like that design so much more than Booming Blade, actually. I've always disliked Booming Blade because half the time it feels like I think it's way more likely that someone sits in the same spot than it is that they don't sit in the same spot. And this is like either moving away or risk an opportunity attack, or stay where you are and take this extra damage. And the extra 1d6 damage that it does is not a problematic amount of damage. And it scales in the similar way to the way that Green Flame Blade did, but it's just the base part because it's just the base attack.
I'm not sure if you need to give this an area. I know the intent is it's just the target space, which you can't use the word space because that's not a keyword in 5e. So you might want to just say in a 5-foot square at the target's location, right? Or a 5-foot diameter sphere centered on the target.
Where do you say it doesn't? Where are you referring to?
The cloud of gas, where the cloud of gas is.
Around the target's location.
Yeah, because it doesn't say how big it is, and the intent I know is just the one square it's in. But you probably do need to say, right, it's in a 5-foot sphere on the target's location.
What about instead of around the target's location, which lasts until your next turn? What about around the target, which lasts until your next turn? Implying that it's just the person. It's just affecting the individual. Do you think it needs to have a distinct area?
I think it does technically, but
because just like how Booming Blade doesn't.
Well, I like this switch: Booming Blade and Half Fuming Shot. Ooh, we have them now.
I'm worried about those parties that use this cantrip and Booming Blade.
Booming Blade doesn't give an area, does it? It says around the target, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I think
Booming Blade. Booming Blade uses some weird words. It becomes sheathed in booming energy.
And I think transforms into a cloud of acidic gas around the target's location. I'm sorry, around the target. Get rid of the word location because that implies that it stays there. I think just around the target is adequate to define this personally.
Yeah.
Because this doesn't really have a convention for it, and we don't because this can't affect anyone else, and I wouldn't want it to be misinterpreted that if someone else walks into that space, they're messing around with Fuming Shot in any way. Which I think that opens it up if you put it in an area more. And because it also abstracts the movement to just if they move or not.
Yeah.
It's not like if they move a certain distance or. I actually think that this is maybe, again, I think the
Yeah.
word location muddies it a little bit, but I think this might be the best form that you could do for this.
Yeah, exactly. The question is just, is it necessary, right? I think you could just like Adrian Peak said as a joke, sheathed in acidic gas, but really it could be like, I think you could use a more loaded word like sheathed, right?
In
Right,
suave.
Yeah, right. Becomes swathed with acidic fumes, might be a way to do it. And then that could be the direction, perhaps.
That might be a way to go too.
Um,
I don't know. I like this phrasing. I think this is in a.
it might be fine even as it is.
Again,
I'm
I'm with you on. I'm not crazy about the word location, but I think that this is a good way of doing it.
I agree.
And this is a great cantrip. I like this a lot. I like this, like I said, more than Booming Blade, which I find to be frequently unsatisfying. Like, also to run against, because players will always Booming Blade my enemies, and I think, well, they don't want to move, but you feel like you're going to feel like I'm metagaming you if I don't have them move, which I've always disliked about Booming Blade. So I like this a lot more in that regard.
I really love it. Overall, I mean, it's top notch. Really cool. And I think that with the exception that the damage attacks become as acid, might even be fine. That even might be fine text.
But nice job on all these, Blood Deuce. All are cool design. I think those cantrips, you could run them in a game right now without issue.
Yeah. Actually, I guess the one question I have, with the exception of that all the damage dealt by the attack becomes acid, how would that interact with like a lightning arrow?
A magic item.
You cast a lightning arrow as a bonus action, and then you cast Fuming Shot. Does the lightning arrow do acid damage? Because it sounds like all the damage dealt by the attack becomes acid.
Can you explain the spell Lightning Arrow to me again?
You cast it on a piece of ammunition, and it explodes with lightning.
Does it become magical ammunition?
I don't know.
Because if it does, then you could specify that the component's a piece of non-magical ammunition, which, I don't know. That's maybe too much. That's something to consider. Think about.
It's so minutia.
Yeah, think about that.
No, it doesn't. It does not specify that it's magical. It definitely is, but it doesn't say that. Anyway, not entirely necessary, just something to consider. And yeah, I'd want to be able to use this on +1 ammo.
Yeah, it makes sense that you would be able to.
But either way, awesome concept. I fucking love it, dude. Nice job.
Yeah. Great choice on the not moving, rather than choosing to go along with Booming Blade.
It's a cool, nuanced take on a pretty
really
widely
frankly
accepted concept.
Yeah, well, intricately designed spell too. It's a hard one to mess with.
Pretty damn good. Let's move down to our next one, Pete, for the night, which is Sphere of Truth by the Forgotten One.
Frog made a what's it called? The fortune
Magic
ball.
8-ball.
Magic 8-ball. Why did I just lose my brain there?
Boy.
I just used the phrase fortune ball. Frog made a fortune sphere. It's called the Sphere of Truths. It is a wondrous item, variable common, uncommon, or rare. The obsidian magic sphere is marked with a blatantly white circle with the symbol of infinity within it, and seems to display responses to questions with a blue triangle with a truthful answer. This magic sphere has a number of charges based on its rarity: 1 for common, 2 for uncommon, 3 for rare. You may expend a charge to ask a question. The sphere will truthfully provide the answer within 4 words or less. If the answer is subjective or unclear, the response will also be unclear, with a response like reply hazy, ask again later, or cannot predict now. The magic sphere regains all charges at the next dawn. I love this magic item. One thing I will note, Frog, is that this is probably, rather than common, uncommon, rare, it's probably more like very rare, legendary artifact. Is probably like the tiering on this, because just getting to answer a question is a lot more. I guess it depends on the nature of your game to a certain extent, but just being able to, like, for example, this would solve a mystery, an entire mystery with like, who is the killer, and it would just be like, it's Jeremy did it, which is how that reads as it stands, which I don't know if it's intended for it to be just yes or no questions, but make sure you specify that it's yes or no questions if you want. And then it would be on par with something like a Commune spell, which is still like a 5th level spell, so you probably want to give it more than common. But then I think you're getting more in the territory that you want to be in. But it's cute, and actually, I feel like a magic item variant of the Magic 8-Ball is something that I could picture 5e doing.
I agree. This feels like something that would show up in like a Dungeon of the Mad Mage style thing in like a random room on probably a corpse, right? There's like a skeleton in the room holding this black orb, and the player's like, "Oh no, what's that?" And the guy's like, "It's a fucking Magic 8-Ball." God damn it.
And it's obviously it's an abstracted one, but they like the players will completely resonate it with it. And it's not a unhealthy thing to reference. Like, so there's some, I think, like fourth wall breaking kind of meta items that are a little bit ridiculous, but since it's something that's like an item of mystique in our world, like it really fits to me in that way. So I don't know. I really like the Sphere of Truths. I'm probably gonna actually rip this off and run like a variant on it at some point.
Yeah, I'm wondering if there's a. I mean, like the super easy, like not at all scary way to use this is have it be like augury, where I can cast the augury spell. But like, I don't know. It'd be fun if there is a way you could tie in this other kind of use case of it, or maybe the legend lore spell. And then the answers have to be, you know, four words or less. Could be funny.
There's
That would actually be really funny. I would love that. You get a 4-word answer to legend lore.
There once was a fuck. Gotta go again tomorrow.
Anyway, thank you for sharing, Frog. It's a fun little item. I like it a lot, actually. But yeah, I'm with Pete. I think as it is, those rarities might be off.
Yeah, like honestly, as it stands, it's kind of like the Vizier card from the deck of many things.
Oh, geez,
but, yeah.
Pete, we got another awesome submission here.
Yes, the Interstellar Helm. This is it was
Round
in
3.
the completed works as Interstellar Helm Final from Sword Co. here. So this is the last time we'll ever see the Interstellar Helm.
I will say, bless you, Sword, for adding in for telling us what you've changed.
I know we said that last time. We'll say it again. The ones in parentheses are the things he changed last time. So the ones after the parentheses are the patch notes too. Which people, I highly recommend you do that to remind us of what we were talking about on it, because it is really easy when 2 weeks go by to forget some of the details. Yeah, that's also a good point. So, as we know, it's a helmet created from non-metallic element. When worn, player gains +1 AC. That's all still good. You have advantage on saving throws against being charm, and advantage on con saves. The player can use an action to perform one of the following spells, but if any effects from this helm are already active, they disappear.
Sorry, big money was making a joke in chat.
Shape 2, Electric Boogaloo, nice. And they fixed the language of the charm. Yeah, I remember talking about that actually. Now that you mention it here, you have advantage on saving throws against being charmed, and advantage on Constitution saving throws. Yeah, good job.
Yeah, pretty much spot on.
Language. Grace of the Stars. You can call upon the stars. So you simplified the wording and changed it to resemble a bless spell and added a you. You call upon the stars to bless a target other than yourself for 1 minute. Whenever a player uses an attack roll or saving throw, they can roll a 1d8 and add the number to the attack roll or saving throw. This ability cannot be used again until the next dawn. Great.
Hold on.
You magically scatter stardust in the air, creating a 10-foot sphere. A 10-foot spear. That's an interesting idea. Creating a 10-foot sphere that heals friendly creatures within range by 1d4 at the beginning of their turn for 1 minute. This ability can't be used again until the next dawn. Also great. Yeah, you did the change to only target friendly creatures. That was a good change, and I think
that was the original change. They originally had changed it to not be that, but then you changed it back because that was what you were going for.
Oh yeah, because it was you were worried about balance on it, and we're like, no, you were good. I remember this now.
Yeah, there's a legendary helm, of course.
And then Starfall, you summon a shooting star, dealing 5d6 fire, 5d6 force to everything within a 10-foot sphere. Each creature within 20 feet of the center of impact must make a DC 15 dexterity saving throw. On a failed save, the creature is pushed 10 feet away from the impact. On a successful save, the creature isn't pushed. This effect cannot be used again for a week. And the clarification on there was to just explain how the push worked, and you did that, and it works. One thing to note about this is the fire damage is absolute. You can't reduce it. I like that. This is just a nuke that always works, which I just think is cool for a legendary item. Because there's nothing that feels.
Isn't pushed. Oh, okay. So sorry, you're saying the fire and the force damage don't get reduced. Yeah.
Oh, and I didn't realize. I just see this at the end. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm just saying I like that choice.
Yeah.
Because it feels bad when you're a legendary item because it's not like a huge amount of damage. At that kind of end game when you're getting legendary items, and it feels bad when something like that doesn't work if it's like your once a week feature. But
I agree, actually.
So I think that was a cool design choice that you made there.
If you really wanted to add minutia here, you'd say 7 days instead of week, but it's fine.
Yeah, you know.
Different settings have different weeks.
Oh,
in the Forgotten Realms, it's 10 days.
You're right about that. Also, Sword rewrote the flavor text here. So let me read this. To stare at this jet black helmet is like looking into the shimmering starry night sky. To wear it is to open the mind to the cosmos and life itself. Though its maker is lost to time, it is said he and those who have owned the helm have become one with the stars themselves and impart their knowledge to the next owner. That is a very well-written chunk of flavor text here at the end. And
that is
you
very
did a really,
cool.
Yeah, you did a really good job writing that, Sword. This is done. Sword.
I one thing. It's so dumb, but one thing. I want this now to do something about knowledge. I almost like want to give it another feature.
Don't make him go back again,
I love
Jeremy.
it, though, Sword. I love it. It's so cool.
Okay, here's what I'll say on that subject. This is done. You could do more stuff on it. Jeremy was just inspired by your flavor text to want to put more on it, but this item is done as it stands. You did a really good job cleaning this all up, and I think it's ready to print. That's it. I got nothing.
I like it very much.
Yep, me too.
I also have nothing left to add here. Oh, that was the last.
Yeah,
that's all we got.
We're done. You did it.
All right.
And also, we're exactly on time.
Aren't we?
Yeah, 11:30.
Oh, I didn't realize that was supposed to be on time. I thought on time was 25 minutes ago.
Oh, no. We had to leave. We were leaving early last time, but 11:30. 11:30 was what I planned on going to.
I thought 11:30 was the cutoff of like we need to be done by this point.
11:30 is both the cutoff and the goal.
Sorry about this peek behind the curtain, fellas. Of Pete and I discussing scheduling. This is how scheduling works. That's why we're bad at it here.
We haven't done Ask Pete and Jeremy in a while.
Oh,
you want to do that?
Ask we Pete and Jeremy. Hey everybody, welcome to Ask Pete and Jeremy, a segment where Pete and I discuss some things maybe related to Dungeons and Dragons. Pete, what's our first question today in the Ask Pete? Oh, I'm sorry. For those of you who don't know what the segment is, it's a segment where Pete and I just answer these questions. You can jump onto our Discord server into the Ask Pete and Jeremy channel and give us some questions. Please do try and make them, not too, personal. But we'll answer some stuff. We reserve the right to not answer certain questions, is I think how we're going to say that.
So we got a bunch of them. I think the first one that we haven't answered is Maddie Morgs' question from April 12th, almost a month ago. And that is, did you eat anything especially yummy or unique today?
Oh my God, yes.
Oh, well, I made leftover spaghetti, but the spaghetti that I made originally was pretty good. And this was
the leftover spaghetti also is good.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. I sauteed some ground beef in garlic, and I put put some nice spice in my sauce, but I used a pre-made sauce because I'm lazy.
But you spiced it to make it a little better.
Yeah, I mean, it tasted Pre-made sauce is really good.
Yeah,
it's
they've
kind of
really
like
upped their ante lately.
yeah, you can't be like proud of it. Like I can't be like, oh, look at this great sauce I made, but it did taste very good. What did you eat though, Jeremy? It seems like you have a better one.
Oh my! It hurt me actually because I am both gluten intolerant and lactose intolerant. But
Oh,
I have this incredible sandwich, Pete. All of you who've been with us a long time know of our friend James, who frequently plays with us on our one shots. He'll be with us in a little bit actually. Maybe we'll get him back soon. But he plays with us for our one shots on Sundays sometimes. And Pete always talks about this magical, beautiful, fantastical place called Fred's Franks, where you can buy the greatest hot dogs in Massachusetts. And out here, I have found a thing, a restaurant right near Disney World called the Bronx Sandwich Company. And I thought with the name Bronx Sandwich Company that they would be terrible, that they were just using the name Bronx to try and sell their sandwiches out here in Orange County. But in fact, they are incredibly good. And that sandwich, eating that sandwich is like a religious experience. It's so good. And every day well, again, I don't eat one every day or I would be dead. But every time I have one of these sandwiches, it fills me with joy. And so I was filled with joy and then agonizing stomach pain, which I'm still not feeling great, actually. And it's been quite a few hours. But Raventel's asking in the chat, do you have celiac disease? Not diagnosed, but when I eat bread and lactose stuff like cheese, and it hurts me.
Mr. Plunderlud asked a great question. The Schnurble? Yes, that's correct.
It was not a Schnurble, but I wish it was. And I imagine it's the closest thing that I've ever been able to have to a Schnurble. What's the next question, Pete?
Let's move on next. Favorite movie to watch during a holiday? This is from V-Bunny. Or favorite movie about or featuring a holiday? That's a great question.
I don't know.
We'll start off by answering with something that you didn't ask for, which is I really like the TV show Over the Garden Wall around fall and autumn and like Halloween time. But I'll also say that I really love Home Alone at Christmas time. It's maybe my favorite Christmas movie. Christmas is the movie season for me. But
I feel it's the Grinch. It's the OG Grinch. Thank you, Swordco here. I love the Grinch.
It's also
Rivendell, I didn't know it would hurt me more and more every time, so maybe I'll be more careful. I've been meaning to go to the hospital to get that figured out. I just, with everything going on, I haven't. Also, I'm bad about going to the hospital.
The what's it called? Also, the Charlie Brown Christmas special is another one that really gets me. What are your rules on firearms in D&D time when being applied to the artificer? I can't remember them.
It's an optional rule, and we do not allow any of the variant or optional rules.
Okay, yeah, I couldn't remember that rule. Correct.
That's been answered already.
Sword of July, I think firearms are okay. Yeah. Can we design a race of small dragonborn that are a combination of pseudo dragon and kobolds as a result of genetic manipulation, magic, and mad science? Dendere Ninja asks. I think the answer to that is you should design that and then show it to us on Fantasy Labs. Because it seems like you got an idea going on there that I would love to see realized. Prince Lone Star asks, I'm making my level 1 character, but I only have one choice for a background. Is it fine if I use custom and copy all the details? I see that question was answered, and the answer was yeah.
Yep.
And
thank you, Sassmaster, for answering that question for Prince
thank you, though, Sassmaster Coldspark, for answering the next one about equipment and starting gold.
Gosh, the Sassmasters are just on it. Thank you, Sassmasters.
Switch asks, how are you? To which I say, doing pretty good.
I'm, again, still a little funky.
There's the stomach thing going
pretty good. What is the aircrew velocity of an unladen swallow? Asks Rex Person Thing, aka Raventel Black Talon in the chat. Oh boy, I actually used to know that just like as a dumb thing that you would know just because it's a dumb thing. Was it like 32 meters per second or something?
Crixus asks.
Well,
Wait, of an unladen swallow. That's a great question. I was gonna ask laden or unladen, and then I realized that you'd already specified unladen, and I goofed it up. So I apologize.
well,
I'll
the
excuse
question
myself.
is African or European. It says an African or European swallow.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. I am sorry, guys.
Jesus.
I don't know Holy Grail as well as I'm supposed to know it.
All right, guys. It's actually 11 meters per second for a European swallow. You've all learned.
I've only watched Holy Grail twice. In my time. How excited are you for the fight against the Duke of Winter? Crixus asks.
I'm actually pretty stoked.
I'm really excited for all of you. Well, it'll be great because we'll have a lot more time for story, myth, and fable games because all of you are going to die. There will be no one left after the Duke of Winter. I've seen what's planned. I've seen it written out.
Oh no!
And
Shivershawn, I apologize that we have shamed you. I hope that doesn't look bad again about the rest of our show.
I assume that was my lack of knowledge of Holy Grail that is
100%.
the shame.
We're-
Yeah. Only twice. Yeah.
But you've only seen it like twice? What?
Yeah, I've only seen it twice. I don't know. I wasn't
What's wrong with you?
raised in a Monty Python household. Jeremy, I don't want to hear. Jeremy, you haven't seen any movies.
Anything. Yeah, I've
so
seen any
you
movie.
can't really get on me about this. What other miniature lines are you a fan of? Example, Warhammer or Hero Forge?
That's a very interesting question. I think you're talking about Dungeons and Dragons miniatures.
Yes.
I am a big fan of 3D printing miniatures. I really like a lot of designers. There are absolutely enormous number of designers of minis for 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons that are meant for you to 3D print at home. Two of the ones that I've looked at most recently that are pretty new to the game, Dark Black Miniatures, very, very cool. You can find them on Patreon. And Goonmaster Games.
Goonmaster Games is great.
Dude, Goonmaster Games is very cool. He's got a more kind of goofy style to his design. I know, obviously, Duncan Luca is a huge name in 3D printing minis field. He's got a very realistic design to his figures, very aberrant in the whole shtick. But there are a ton of really, really awesome ones out there. So those are just 3 off the top of my head. Otherwise, I just do Wizards of the Coast pre-painted minis.
I use a lot of minis. I don't use minis a lot because I don't have a lot of them and they're expensive a lot of the time. Unless you got that nice, Jeremy's got that nice 3D print setup and all that. But I do use a lot of minis I have this old board game called Heroscape that had a really elaborate, like, build your own map hex tile system, and a lot of cool minis, so I use a lot of those. Last 2 questions are the 2 that are coming in right now. Are you going to Scarborough Fair?
I'm going to Scarborough Fair. No.
I am not around that day, unfortunately, but I'm hoping to get there eventually. But my last question is only one that Jeremy can truly answer, which is, does Data have a fancy bow tie, Jeremy?
He doesn't. Data has 2 hats that he sometimes wears, that he doesn't like wearing them. But what'll happen is he'll try and take them off for about 30 seconds and then either flop on the ground and just cry until Jamie takes it off his head, or so like half the time he'll get the hat off his head. The other, maybe about half of the remaining times, another 25% of the time, he flops on the ground and cries until my girlfriend Jamie takes the hat off his head. And then the last quarter of the time, he just gives up and just walks around with the hat. And he just doesn't care. So, no, he has no bow ties, but he's got a little bunny rabbit hat and a cherry hat. Yeah, that's all I got.
And also, I realized that my answer, since I already messed up the unladen swallow, I will say parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme to the question, are you going to Scarborough Fair? Just to make sure that I get at least one of these references right now. So, Jeremy, I got, announcements. Tune in next week on Friday. It's Pete and Jeremy's D&D time. It's a different thing. There's no sign-ups.
Very different Pete and Jeremy's D&D time.
Yeah, there's no, +1 reference point. Thank you.
You're now officially hip.
Which was already true, so I've moved into a new plane, I guess. The Pete and Jeremy's D&D time is different next week. There are no signups. We have a very big Legend tier boss battle, which isn't a legendary boss battle. It's a boss battle at Legend tier, which is a new tier boss battle that doesn't exist and it has no name. And it's the first time we've ever done one of these, and it's going to be the whole day. So all of these slots for next week are already taken up, but it should be a lot of fun. And that was the question that Crixus was asking. I called him Crixus, but Mr. Plunderloot, which is how excited are you for the fight against the Duke of Winter? And to answer it more honestly, I'm extremely excited. I think it's going to be an absolute blast.
Yeah, Pete and I sat down and talked for quite a while to hash out a few things about that today. We're very, very excited. We already had a good idea, but now we have a very, very strong idea of where this is going to go, and it's going to be very cool. Thank you so much to Shiva Sean for the follow. I'm glad that what we were doing here is worth your attention. We appreciate that very much. And I think with that about wraps us for the evening.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
I got nothing else.
Thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us. And I'll only continue to follow you if Pete watches Holy Grail in the next 24 hours. Pete, wait a second. We gotta have a quick. Pete, lie.
Jeremy, I don't know if that's good
You're
content.
looking in the wrong direction. You're looking in the wrong direction to lie.
I'm looking at my microphone so I can focus my voice directly into that.
Oh, okay.
And
anyway, thank you, everybody.
I promise you, Shiva-Sean, that I might watch it. Lie accepted. Thank you.
A promise is a promise. He might do it.
If Pete is free tomorrow night, I will stream it. Again, maybe on this. I don't know if I have.
I think very soft, maybe.
My third time watching Holy Grail. Actually, I might have a. Actually, no, I actually can't tomorrow. I am playing D&D tomorrow. I'm playing D&D tomorrow, which should be fun.
That's weird.
Yeah, wacky.
Be kind of brutal. I agree, Blood. Pete,
there's some movies that people just like hang into, and Holy Grail's one of them. Jeremy has never seen the movie Indiana Jones: Raiders of the Lost Ark. I'm Pete.
I hate you, Pete. I'm Jeremy.
And this is Fantasy Labs. Good night, everyone.
Good night. God damn you.